Hello everybody on the internet. So recently I uploaded full playthroughs of two games, ScoobyDoo First Frights and ScoobyDoo and the Spooky Swamp. I did that because zoinks, jinkies, jeepers, these two games are amazing. Two of the greatest games of all time. They were a massive part of my childhood on the PS2. I have played them a billion times and have never gotten bored of them. And my PS2 still works. To this day I still play these on there, but I recently downloaded them on PC so I could record them for YouTube. I'm a massive Scooby-Doo fan, and a big part of my love for Scooby-Doo comes from these two amazing games. And I'm going to tell you all about them. So Scooby-Doo First Frights was released in 2009, and Scooby-Doo and the Spooky Swamp was released in 2010 on PS2, Wii, Nintendo DS, and Microsoft Windows. Both have two-player co-op. My brother and I always played together. They were made by Australian developers Taurus Games, that depicts Mystery Inc. in their early years. These may be PS2 games, but they still run so well. Barely any glitches, and the AI does what it's supposed to. These are the perfect Scooby-Doo games because they capture everything that makes Scooby-Doo great. Like all Scooby media, it's made for kids but can be enjoyed by people of all ages. I'm an adult and I still love it. The games have the light funny tone that sometimes goes spooky. The players get to solve the mystery with the gang. Shaggy and Scooby are always eating. They have a perfect use of cartoon sound effects and physics. And the graphics look like a 3D cartoon come to life. Also, these games are beat 'em ups. Who could have ever imagined that a Scooby-Doo game would be a beat 'em up? But it doesn't lose what Scooby-Doo is. It's awesome, endless fun, and works so well that you don't second guess it. I've played them so many times that I know them off by heart down to the small details. Such as running over here makes debris fall off, and shooting the chickens will make them turn giant and kill you. That is the most horrifying thing in Scooby-Doo history. I also remember all of the amazing music so vividly. I'm not saying it's amazing just because it's nostalgic. No, it's actually quality. Every cue is so distinct, perfectly suits the theme of the level, and can, no joke, actually be scary. Listen. Did they think this was a horror game? And let's not forget, the games feature the classic voice actors for these characters. Well, other than Frank Welker, they aren't the originals of course, but this cast has played them for so long, they are the definitive voices. The legend Frank Welker plays Scooby-Doo and Fred. The amazing Grey Delisle Griffin plays Daphne. Mindy Conn plays Velma. In First Frights, Scott Irons plays Shaggy for the last time. And then in Spooky Swamp, Shaggy is played by the best, Matthew Lillard.
Are you challenging me?
These games also feature other A-list voice actors. James Arnold Taylor, Fred Tatasciore, Steve Blum, and John DiMaggio. And you're probably looking at this gameplay and thinking, it's a lot like LEGO games. And yeah, you're right, it is pretty similar. Now I'm going to go over the games individually. Scooby-Doo First Fright starts with Mystery Inc. in their clubhouse where Velma tells them about a food festival at Keystone Castle. So the gang decides to go so Shaggy and Scooby can compete in the competition. On their way there, they make stops at different locations where coincidentally, there's a mystery that needs solving. The game has 4 linear episodes, each one a mystery with a story mode and a free play mode. Episode 1 takes the gang to St. Louis High to help Daphne's cousin Anna, where they discover the High School Musical is being haunted by the Phantom. It has 2 levels, a chase, and a boss. Every level in the game pairs 2 characters together. The tutorial is the only level where you switch between characters. And here's where it gets even more like LEGO games. The world is full of Scooby Snacks, which are the equivalent of LEGO studs. Each member of the gang has attacks, a double jump, a special move, and unique abilities. Scooby fights with sausages, blocks, and can enter dog doors. Shaggy shoots with a slingshot, blocks, and can grapple. Fred punches, throws a stun grenade, and can move heavy objects. Daphne karate kicks, has a rush attack, which is the most OP move, and can climb on poles. Velma throws books, blocks, and can hack machines. But abilities actually change depending on the costume you're wearing, which is cool. The devs also decided to give Mystery Inc superpowers. Holding square will charge them up for a more powerful attack. And I'm telling you, this was the original debut of Ultra Instinct Shaggy.
I walk on your face.
Being a beat 'em up, you will be fighting a lot of enemies. You don't just spam buttons to beat them, there is a little bit of strategy to beating different enemy types. Tiny enemies cling on to you, some shoot stun bombs, some have to be attacked in the air, and you need to deflect missiles at some. And since this is for kids, you can't truly die, so Lego game style, you lose your Scooby snacks and respawn. Health can be found in bubblers all around the levels. Episode 1 may be the shortest episode, but it does a great job of establishing the mystery and what the rest of the game will be. You then get to the chase level, and zoinks, the chase levels are quick but so fun. They're always Shaggy and Scooby getting chased by the boss. With all levels in First Frights, you will be fighting your way through a location, meeting characters, and collecting pieces to get a clue to who the villain is. After fighting skeletons, musketeers, and witches through a very elaborate school, you then get to the Phantom boss. Every boss plays out in stages. The Phantom sings a song which I spent way too much time listening to. Then after an absolute tank of a boss fight, you have to unmask the villain. This happens after every boss, and it's not hard to figure out. Then you move on to episode 2. The gang heads to Toy Town and discovers the theme park is being attacked by a giant robot and evil toys. From here on, all episodes have 4 levels, a chase, and a boss. The theme park is by far my favourite location in the game. The colours, the rides, and the music, it is just stunning. This episode has the best and worst enemy varieties. These horrifying ragdolls that just rush you.
That sound haunts my nightmares!
And then these fat things. What the hell, man? Episode 2's chase would have to be my favourite chase level. Then eventually you fight the toy Robotus in a very well designed boss fight. After solving another mystery, in episode 3, the gang stops at Rocky Bay and discovers the townspeople have been scared away by a giant sea monster. This is when the game starts to get a bit harder. The bay and the ship are great looking locations, but the environment is much harder to jump across. I don't know how many times I've fallen in the water, and the enemies only get tougher, which are sea creatures and fishermen. It takes 10% of Shaggy's power to kill these divers. You do another fun chase and then fight the Lobster Mark IV with the most OP water gun ever. And plot twist, this mystery has 2 villains. Next in episode 4, which is my favourite episode, the gang finally arrives at the Keystone Castle Food Festival and discovers that the castle has been cursed for centuries by the evil Witch Queen. This is the toughest mystery yet and is set at a castle. That speaks for itself how cool it is. The music in every level is great. And this time you fight real monsters. Werewolves, these guys that never stop shooting you, warlocks, and gargoyles. Episode 4's chase level is definitely the scariest chase. And one of the best levels is level 4. Battling through the castle in Fred's Centurion costume and Daphne's Viking costume is so awesome. Then finally you face the Witch Queen. This boss fight is the definition of epic. She's very powerful. The castle is exploding around them, so epic. And after everything, this mystery doesn't get solved. With the story done, First Frights also has collectibles. Scooby medallions can be found throughout the levels, but most need to be collected in free play. And there are trophies for doing objectives, costumes are found in chests, and some levels will actually give you a costume by default, which can later be purchased in the clubhouse. and I really like the selection of costumes. But I absolutely hate Velma's sumo costume and Scooby's opera costume. Why? Just why? And something that completely changes the gameplay is you can actually play as the enemy types. But nothing will ever be weirder than playing as a crab. What an awesome game, right? Now I'm going to talk about another amazing game. ScoobyDoo and the Spooky Swamp starts with Mystery Inc. in their clubhouse again, and Shaggy and Scooby are lured into the swamp by a smell. There they meet Lila, a mysterious swamp resident who tells them to go to different locations to collect ingredients for the stew she's cooking for them. Shaggy and Scooby keep this secret, while seemingly convenient events make Fred, Daphne and Velma go too. And of course, wherever they go, there's a mystery that needs solving. Being a sequel, Spooky Swamp is a completely familiar game to First Frights. The events are briefly mentioned, 2 characters return, but you don't need to play First Frights to love this. The graphics are the same, but the facial expressions are better. Spooky Swamp is also a more advanced game. It does not have linear levels and instead plays out in 3 open worlds: the Swamp, El Muncho, and Howling Peaks. It's awesome to think a Scooby-Doo game is open world. Each region looks unique, has amazing music, and I know them all like the back of my hand. The gameplay and the characters' abilities are the same, but they can no longer double jump or use a special move. The circle button is now used to pick up objects, and health can only be obtained after killing an enemy at low health.
About fight.
This does make the combat a little harder, but they can still go Ultra Instinct. So after the swamp intro, Mystery Inc. travels to the desert town El Muncho and discovers everyone has been scared away by El Scariachi. El Muncho is a great blend of Mexican and Western. It really feels like a place that is lived in. Another great feature is that Spooky Swamp actually allows you to play as any character at any time. But there are times where you're locked as Shaggy and Scooby, so I always try to play as the rest of the gang as much as possible. As you work through the mystery, you will again meet new characters and run into this annoying frog who I avoid at all costs. And of course, you fight a lot of enemies, such as zombie puppets, exploding zombie brides that I hate so much, and flaming wrestlers. There's more strategy to beating enemies this time too. Throwing objects at some and waiting until some stop spinning in order to attack. And instead of just picking up pieces of a clue, this game goes all out with mystery investigation. You have a magnifying glass for revealing hidden secrets, a camera to take photos of evidence, and you can record suspects. You'll also have to put scrap pieces back together. And the mystery machine has an evidence board that allows you to piece everything together. Jinkies, I wonder who it is. You'll also be solving puzzles to progress, creating a path, putting the right pieces in the right spot. Eventually you get to the chase, and these chases are longer, which makes them better. This one is so fun. The only replayable levels in the game are chases and bosses. After investigating El Muncho more, you face El Scariachi. This boss fight has a perfect setup and a perfect theme. Then once again, you have to figure out who the villain is. Mystery Inc. then returns to the clubhouse, and Shaggy and Scooby go to take the ingredient to Lila. The swamp is so dense and deadly, it's so easy to get lost in. And it feels like a place with a spooky history. When they get to Lila, she tells them to go to Howling Peaks, and another seemingly convenient thing makes the gang go too. So they travel to Howling Peaks, where they get attacked by a giant Yeti. And they discover the Yeti has scared all of the tourists away from the mountain. I can't emphasize enough how awesome Howling Peaks is. It's by far the best location in the game. The environment is stunning. I love the snow, the sound, and the gang's winter costumes. This is the longest mystery yet. You can also make soup and do the laundry. Jeepers. You fight tougher enemies, frankenmooses, wendigos, snowmen, wolves, and these things that don't die. And this game has the most far-fetched, stereotypical Australian character of all time, Buckley.
I'm the latest in a long line of trackers. My old man Robbo Buckley was a tracker, but he was eaten by a dinosaur. Me? Well, I was brought up by a pack of dingoes myself.
Not only is Steve Blum's Aussie accent bad, this game was made by Australians. It's hilarious. Then you get to my favourite chase level. Running down the snowy mountain is so fun. And after exploring Howling Peaks more, you finally get to the Yeti boss. This is my favourite boss fight. It has a great setup, a great scale, and the Yeti's animation is so funny. After that epic mystery, the gang finds out about Shaggy and Scooby's secret, and they take them to meet Lila in the swamp. Throughout the game, Shaggy and Scooby have been seeing a monster in the swamp, which does a great job of building up the tension for the final boss, a giant alligator. This is my least favourite boss, but the gameplay is different from all the others. And in the end, they find out the truth about Lila. So overall, Spooky Swamp's story is shorter than first Frights, but the amount of collectibles in the open worlds really make up for it. There's so many collectibles that as a kid I could never get them all. I only did that last year. Scooby medallions return, trophies return, one of them is even a Back to the Future reference. There's also various customizable costume pieces, ghost photographs, Scooby letters, sandwich pieces, and taking photos of characters and collecting enemy masks will create case files for every character. And there are a lot of challenging mini games in the open worlds. So, that is Scooby-Doo First Frights and Scooby-Doo and the Spooky Swamp in a nutshell. Two amazing 10 out of 10 games in my opinion. But overall, I think First Frights is better. Since it's level based, it allows the story to be stronger and makes it more replayable. But Spooky Swamp is still perfect. What shocks me is that there has never been another Scooby-Doo console game since these games. Lego Dimensions doesn't count because that's just one level. But that makes me want a Lego Scooby-Doo game more than anything. If you haven't played these games, I highly recommend it. Or you can just watch my playthroughs. So, what do you think of this video? Have you played these games? What do you think of them? Let me know in the comments below, and may the Force be with you.
ScoobyDoo.